Is the great crypto crash of mid-March 2024 over? Do I get a t-shirt that says, I survived the recent bear market? Bitcoin has rebounded. Ethereum has rebounded. Doge is pumping like crazy. Big bounce across the markets. Is the bottom in? And if so, what is coming next for this market? Also, we're going to talk about Ethereum Gate and all of the FUD that we just saw coming in seemingly at the same time against Ethereum yesterday. I have two of my absolute favorites who you guys have not seen on the show yet, who I talk about a lot, talk to a lot behind the scenes. I've got Andrew, Parish, Tillman, Holloway, the men from Arch Public. We're going to chop it up and we're going to tell you some exciting news about things we have coming up together as well. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. And apparently I've been informed that there's a little bell. I don't YouTube because I'm 47 years old and literally don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. But there's a little button that's a bell or something that'll tell you when I'm going to be doing stuff, and then you'll know. Okay, that's the producer told me to tell you that. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and bring them on right now. I got Tillman, Holloway, and Andrew. People haven't seen you guys on the show, but Andrew, they hear you on Spaces all the time. He's the abacus guy who's always giving us the deep inside information that nobody's supposed to know.
Yeah, man, it's fantastic to be here. A lot of stuff going on with Gensler and the SEC and Ethereum. Some really good stuff yesterday and stuff that, frankly, I was expecting. So it's awesome to be here and awesome to be talking about it.
Andrew always knows, Tillman. I don't know what's up. Tillman, I have a really important question for you. If, let's say we were in like a 6 foot wide hallway, 50 feet long, 100 chances, how many do you think I could get past you running at full speed?
Well, you know, there's a bell curve to everything. So maybe a couple of times you'd get past me, maybe a couple of pokes in the eye, something like that.
Yeah, you guys
Depends
might
on
not
how
know,
dirty you got, basically.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be dirty. Tillman's one of the best offensive linemen probably in the history of college football in Texas. And now, talk about the other SEC. I'm a Gator fan, and you guys are coming to our SEC to make life a lot more difficult for us.
Consolidation of power. It's going to be an interesting few years. I think it's going to be short-lived, to be honest with you. I think they're going to have to make a super conference here pretty soon. I think that's where everything's trending.
Well, that's the SEC I like. Let's momentarily talk about the SEC I hate. But first, we got Bitcoin top 67K on dovish Fed remarks, Ether rebounds from SEC fears, Doge soars. Andrew, we had this kind of wild situation yesterday where we got this very vague report that Ethereum was under investigation from a state authority, right? We never even said what state it was,
right,
what was going on. Then quickly Fortune, that was here, and then quickly Fortune immediately released an article saying SEC probing crypto companies and Ethereum investigation as hopes for ETF DIM. Seemed a little bit fishy on the timing of all this really coming out at once.
So it was now more than 2 months ago, about 2 months and a couple weeks, and it was the day after launch day of the Bitcoin ETFs. And I had several long conversations with two guys who were on the floor at the NYSE launching BlackRock's IBIT product. And flat out, they told me that people at Jane Street who were standing there with them, Coinbase that were standing there with them, and BlackRock that were standing there with them, that the chances of an Ethereum ETF were slim to none. And so you have to think that those types of folks who have been in the rooms with SEC staff over the course of the last 6 months, I would assume that the Ethereum ETFs came up a time or two, and they were probably told, "Hey, listen, we're not going in that direction. You're lucky that we're doing this." It probably didn't help all that much in the short term, by the way. And I know these were Solana tokens, but the rise of the Elizabeth Horan token, I would think that Elizabeth probably made a call to Gary Gensler and said, "I don't know what's going on here, but can you shut this down?" That probably wasn't all that helpful to the quote unquote cause in the short term. So, some of this was predicted and understandable, while at the same time, it's, we're talking about government agencies that are, they don't have a check on their power, right? So another note that I got yesterday was Gensler doesn't care about losses in court. He doesn't care, what, CT anonymous accounts say about him in the short term, because it doesn't register. And oh, by the way, they got smacked by a court the other day and sanctioned, and there's going to be fines. They don't care about those fines either. Why? Because we as taxpayers pay those fines. They're literally going to take from their budget, which comes from the taxpayers, and pay those fines, right? So, context, right? What's the context of what the SEC is doing? What are the outcomes? And then, frankly, what is the alpha that can be grabbed from those outcomes, right? We can be pissed off about the outcomes and be pissed off about the SEC, but how do we leverage that for potential returns in the short and long term? I think it's massively bullish for the Bitcoin ETFs, because from a retail wealth management, retail TradFi, retail 99% of people that are out there not trading Elizabeth Warren, meme coins on spot. The only access they're going to have to crypto is a Bitcoin ETF. So those flows in the medium and long term will accelerate.
Yeah, I was never that bullish on Ethereum getting that much attention, even if the ETF was approved, to be honest. A fraction, I would think, of Bitcoin, but still, it just would have been, I think, nice to see the industry moving. I don't think it's over, but I agree with you. It happens, just not with Gary, right? But, let's talk about the kind of the fact, Tillman, Ethereum bounced massively on the bad news, right? Even more than Bitcoin. But then we also, at the same time, had FOMC. Powell came in kind of dovish. Honestly, Powell just keeps saying the same shit and people interpret it however they want, if you ask my opinion. But we saw a major move. Obviously, you guys, and we'll get into it, you guys are aggressively trading this. You have an algorithm that does it. Tillman, you've been in this. I mean, you've been mining Bitcoin since 1947 or something. And but right, so you have a pretty good pulse. But what do you make of the huge bounce we saw in the market? And do you think then that the bottom is likely in?
Well, I think there's always a reason behind these bounces, right? And the excitement about the money flow and the amount of money that's going to come into the market over the next 6 months is what we're seeing as a response. Ethereum, y'all talked about whether it should be, in the same category as Bitcoin. Like you said, I started in Bitcoin, and I started as a miner, and I learned the technology, and I fell in love with the technology, not from a appreciation perspective of Bitcoin itself, but because it was fair and equitably distributed. Okay. And so if you look at proof of work and you look at how we're 90% through the curve on Bitcoin, and anyone who has a Bitcoin or a fraction of a Bitcoin either paid for it, mined it, or stole it. Those are the three categories you fit into, period, the end. And if you look at every other coin that's ever been created, you cannot say the same thing. There was an unequitable distribution or allocation of that currency at some point during its history. And so, there needs to be further investigation into how those coins were distributed. That's an important part of the industry. You can't have, the industry being led by meme coins, which is essentially the ultimate, display of what this is, right? And so I think function, utility, store value, those things are important. Those need to be on the front page of every headline, because that's really the value that this technology can bring to the market. So that's kind of my soapbox about Ethereum and kind of the rest of the bunch. The market is exciting right now. I mean, we are seeing a huge pump. I think interest rates I think we're all comfortable that they're at least on hold for a while, if not coming down. That's a huge driver. I mean, if you look at what the key sectors are that we're always focused on. The housing sector is always one of the biggest ones. And when you're at the level of break even or loss from a variable rate perspective, if you're an investor and you want to hold a development for the next 2 years, that's becoming unsustainable at these rates. And so I do think we're going to see a massive surge in activity. And that's obviously a good thing. I mean, America is always the leader in the economic drivers. So I'm excited to see what happens. I don't know how long it will be sustained, but I do think that, make hay when the sun is shining is the point.
I've become a hell of a lot more bullish on the ability of the United States government to kick these cans down the road. Mm-hmm. I was definitely one of those. Recession has to come. Every indicator says it. I've got my like doomers who come on every Monday and tell us about the Great Reset. Shit keeps going up.
Listen, I've been hearing about the Great Reset since the 80s. When I was a kid, when we've seen interest rates get to 20% in my lifetime. Think about that. I mean, we're nowhere near that right now. And people are going, the sky's falling, the sky's falling. No, we incurred a worldwide pandemic that put everything into a state of limbo for a long time. It's hard to start a machine as big as the global economy, without it taking a while. And so we've seen that while. And I think now these liquidity pumps are being utilized for investment purposes, which is a good thing. I mean, if you want to see an indicator of the hope that lies in a nation, it's where they put their money, and putting it into the market and putting it into alternative investments and putting it into all these things that I think the retail investor is through technology getting access to. I think that's an exciting time to live in. It's access to things that we've never had access to before.
Yeah. And I mean, as for this specific correction that I sort of mocked at the beginning and said I survived the correction of like the last 4 days, the bear market, very traumatic. I mean, Andrew, bottom's likely in, right?
Yeah, I think it is. And even more appropriately, as it relates to Ethereum, like we survived the crash of 4 hours yesterday. Right. So that's very typical of crypto, right? You survive, especially in the last 4 to 6 months. There have been these sort of not necessarily flash crashes, but news-focused, news-based movements or corrections in the crypto markets that are very, very short-lived. I mean, the reality is, functionally, there's a specific to Bitcoin. There's a buy wall that exists there, right? There's a buy wall associated with the likes of BlackRock and Fidelity. These are the two of the largest financial institutions on the planet, and their Bitcoin products are some of the most popular overall financial products in the market right now, right? Both of those products are in the top 5 of inflows so far this year for all ETFs, right? That's hard to fathom. We're in crypto, right? We're in the Bitcoin space. We talk about it all the time. We're kind of in the bubble. Like, take yourself out of the bubble, and people are like, "What in the world is going on here? Like, what is that?" It's like a version of an oil and gas, mining ETF somehow becoming one of the top 5 ETFs for this year. Like that would be weird. Like that would be strange. Like that'd be like, okay, what in the world, where is this coming from? What's going on? So point being is there's going to be periods of asset allocation processes over the next 2, 3, 4, 6 months where people are going to sit down with their financial advisor and say, what's the deal here? Why is this the best performing ETF? And you haven't said anything to me about it. What in the world's going on? Right? So that's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, which goes to the bullishness of Bitcoin ETFs even further. All of these inflows are happening without there being a huge groundswell, again, outside of crypto Twitter, of visibility associated with these products.
Yeah, these things are not out there as much as we think they are. Go ahead, Tillman.
No.
I just was going to say, I think a lot of people are missing the forest for the trees as it relates to what this shift really means and what's happening. When the ETF started, what we had was a shift in market maker. The market makers of the crypto industry used to be the Binance of the world. It's not anymore. That shift is going to bring tighter and tighter pricing spreads and less volatility over time. So when you look at these quote bottoms and people saying, we've had pullbacks in the Bitcoin market every bull run that we've ever been on, right? And the pullbacks have been extremely violent. That doesn't mean that there are many bear markets. It's a bull run with massive pullbacks. Now, what's hopeful and what's positive is that you look at the pullbacks of the past, and then now you look at the pullbacks now that the market maker has shifted to responsible market makers that understand spread and understand how to get the buyers and the sellers at a willing price, because that's what it's all about, right? Where the most transactional volume is going to take place. And so the more exposure, the more rollout, the more customers that come online in the ETF space, the more power the market maker is going to have to keep the volatility at a minimum, right?
So we're seeing much shallower corrections this entire run, and we saw slightly shallower corrections last run. This is 2017 right here. I keep sharing this chart. 41%, 38%, 30%, 35%. I mean, there was one correction that was under 30% basically in that market.
Right.
They were talking about 15.5%. Right. The market after that was 21, 16, 31, 26. Then we had the 55% drawdown, 25. Now we look at literally it's like 22, 20, 21, 21, 50. That's this market. Our largest correction from 17,000 to 74,000 new all-time high was 22%. I mean, this
anything that's
different.
Measurable and that's you can see an improvement in, there's an architect behind the improvement. And the architect is these new large financial firms like BlackRock who have taken the lead and that are going to be the future market makers. If more liquidity is flowing in through those markets, then they're going to have the tools and the bandwidth to really lock these prices in and get willing buyers and willing sellers together more quickly when you see these free falls or when you see these large pumps. And that's what we want. We want it to be a store of value, right? It's hard to, we have to, as a community, be able to be critical, right? It's like my therapist says, progress, not perfection. This one's better than the last one.
You have the same therapist as me. Congrats.
Yeah, but
Awesome.
there's room for improvement, right? And the room for improvement is that hopefully we will see so much liquidity in this space in the future where the pullbacks will be almost unnoticeable. I mean, it will be a very small blip in the history of the price swings.
Well, and to be fair, the reason why he has a therapist is because as a partner, I'm just an incredible pain in the ass.
I literally met you a couple months ago, and I go like 3 times a week now.
That's right. So, I take that on. I'm okay with it, right? I'm okay with it because, as he said, it's progress, not perfection. I don't claim to be perfect. It's all about progress, right? So when there's a difficult moment, I just raise my hand and say, hey, Tillman, this is about progress. Right.
We were joking before we got on for the audience that, Tillman gets real uncomfortable if we start saying bad things about the SEC, consider, like history and wanting to be on the right side of things. I said I was just going to do this every time we mentioned the SEC. It's gonna pop off, but we'll let him stay on. But yeah, listen, I think that we have just a different market this time. I don't like to say this time is different, but when you have this steady bid coming in from ETF buyers and you have those unlocks happening so slowly, new RA comes online once a month, right, or whatever it is. That should at least we will have corrections, but they should be more shallow. You shouldn't be able to see a 50% drop off if that bid is in. But Andrew, I want to ask you because I know that you are the president of the Barry Silbert fan club,
of course,
and you love Grayscale and GBTC, DCG in general. We've seen I think Eric Balchunas, who I had on yesterday, called it a second wind of outflows from GBTC. Right, we had seen this huge outflow, which was obvious to anyone at the very beginning. That's when we saw Bitcoin drop from 49 to 39, right when that started. Then they trickled down to, 30, 40, 50 million a day, well outpaced by all the other ETFs. Well, now we're back to like 600 million a day on GBTC outflows.
Right. Yeah, there has been, as of the end of the day yesterday, there's been 1.5 billion in outflows for GBTC just this week. So in 3 days. So that's an average of 500 million a day. We've gotten to the point in that particular story where I think people that are in that trade, and again, I got some messages about it earlier this week, where there's just a large swath of people that are just like, I don't care about the tax ramifications. I want out of this product. I want out of this product because of who it's associated with. I want out of this product because they're just spitting in our eye as it relates to the fees. It's hard to quantify the conversations that had to be had inside of that organization to say, we're going to keep fees at 1.5% when it's
FedEx is free.
Well, there's a better market. There's a better market maker. That's the point, is like there's professionals that have stepped into the role, which is a huge kudo to the market. I mean, think about the people who we can call advocates this bull run versus last bull run, right? Think about the list of people on the world stage of finance that have come over to our side of the fence this go around. I mean, Larry Fink would be the first guy. I mean, he's been saying on, public television, everything will be tokenized. I mean, think about that. I mean, that is a radical shift in perspective. And so I believe in free markets. And so I get uncomfortable when people are pushing narratives one way or another, because the market will respond. If the value proposition is there and the delta is created, the delta of change, the delta of efficiency, then the market will gravitate towards that. And we're seeing that. I would say this, like Bitcoin, in my opinion, what it's done from a proof of work and fair and equitable distribution of wealth over the last 10 plus years, it's never been done in the history of mankind. You don't have to defend it. It is its own defense. You can't argue with it. It's technology that if you understand it, you're saying this is a masterpiece. This deserves to be put in the highest level of admiration and achievement that the financial sector has ever seen. And what we're seeing is the biggest entities that control wealth on the planet start to recognize the efficiency, the real utility behind the technology. That is an exciting thing to see.
And so, not to oversell Tillman and his experience, but he's got 2 generations and a long history in oil and gas exploration in his family, on the ground type stuff, which led him to the idea of, wait a minute, there's real math and there's real equitable distribution associated with the mining of Bitcoin, right?
Well, I fell in love with the notion that the whole world could be banked through a network that requires only electricity to participate. That's a really powerful concept, because inclusion today is what we're after. We want a broader market. We want more participants. We want the technology to change more and more lives. Mm-hmm. Well, access to that from a mining perspective, proof of work, in my opinion, is one of the most perfect, inflationary curves that you could have put on any technology. So I just think that there's a lot of appreciation, and I would not call myself a Bitcoin maximalist per se, because I do believe that the blockchain itself will be used for lots of stuff. But I do believe, from a store of value perspective, in a fair and equitable distribution and a security of technology, all of the above, Bitcoin really needs to stand by itself. And if there's no other ETF option, that's good for Bitcoin ETF, right? That's the way I look at it. So it's a positive. We're stepping in the right direction, and that network won't fail.
But by the way, I don't think this has been said because people forget, but the points that Larry Fink has been making for the last 6 months on tokenization of real world assets, that's equivalent to him being on stage at NFT Week in Miami and saying the same things as many people said, at a kooky madooky, funny looking, NFT conference from 3 years ago, right? Literally the same points are being made by the largest asset manager on the planet. Have we taken that in? Have we thought about that? Have we given that real thought? That the points of reference associated with tokenization, right? By Larry, that is you want to talk about bullish, right? You want to talk about bullish. That is.
I say there's four branches of the government, right? We've got the judicial, the executive, the legislative, and BlackRock.
Right. Well,
I don't really care what Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden have to say. Larry Fink's their boss.
Right. Exactly right. So that should be the thesis behind how you choose to navigate these markets. Like it's interesting that there may be some inflections of price associated with a story from Fortune about the Ethereum Foundation. Interesting, right? But more interesting is what BlackRock is doing on Ethereum, right? What BlackRock is doing with the fund that they opened up and they registered for. Tillman, I don't know if you saw that, but BlackRock registered for what is
100 million.
Yeah, they put 100 million.
BUIDL also. They went full degen with the name Biddle.
Yeah, BUIDL. So it's a project where they on the Ethereum blockchain. They're what is it? A dollar denominated sort of product? Something
there's a lot of conjecture. It might be something stable coin-ish, but more likely real world asset tokenization of real world assets. It's kind of vague.
Yeah, but they did register it.
You have to start somewhere, and that's where you would start if you were pursuing the tokenization of all assets. You'd start at the second in command, Ethereum.
Go ahead, please.
I think there's such a ridiculous deep dive that has to be taken beyond Bitcoin as it relates to the nuances of each tech and each chain that you choose. I remember seeing clips and articles as far back as probably 6 years ago about Ripple working with X Bank and Y Bank and this. And, I think there is a lot of companies that are buying that education right now and doing the deep dive. And is it encouraging to me that they are looking at this with Ethereum? Yes. But do I think that when they look at Avalanche, they're going to have a lot of questions to answer as it relates to what the future holds? I think they will. I think they just don't have.
Or in a cycle, will this all be on Bitcoin, or will it all be on Bitcoin in a cycle? Right.
Well, and I think there is so many people that would want that to happen, and they have the means to deliver that. I do think that's probably where it all gets concentrated at some point.
So we got to talk about two of our fates. First of all, someone said, "What is with the beards in the U.S.?" And he said, "Do you not sell razors in the States?" No, we actually we have no razors left because we just give them to homeless people in California and immigrants on the border. If you watch the news elsewhere, that's what we're doing with our razor blades. So that's why we can't shave. More importantly, though, two things. So first, we're going to go over time with you guys here. I'm sorry. I want you to tell us about Arch Public and what you guys actually do and why it matters, because these guys have they've cracked the system, and I've been running it on my computer and it's bananas. So give us the quick elevator pitch, then I'm going to give them the news.
Yeah, sure. So Arch Public is about bridging the gap of technology to the retail consumer. If you have ever heard the terms high frequency trading, the vast majority, 70+% of the volume that happens in the markets is through automation, is through automatic trades that a computer program is executing for you. We are trying to bring that to the retail consumer at scale. So Arch Public has trading automation that works with US-based broker dealers. TradeStation is specifically the one that it works on their platform. And you can load it into your computer. You can control it yourself on your computer. It's completely user-driven. You can change the parameters of what you want from an output perspective, and it will do those things for you without you having to sit at your computer and do them yourself. And it does it better than if you were sitting at your computer and doing it yourself. It can do the math a lot. It can do the math a lot quicker than you. It can execute the trades much more quickly as it relates to putting in the orders. So there's advantages that are coming down the pike to retail traders that they've not seen before. And we want to give them that exposure. We want to create as big of an on-ramp as possible and let people see that technology for themselves and play with it and see if it's something that they want to incorporate into their daily lives.
But the coolest part is that it can trade any market. But to be clear, you're trading S&P, but you can settle into Bitcoin at the end of every day.
Yeah, so we're trading futures, and so BTC does have a futures market, so that is something that is viable. But what we're trying to do is work within the framework to give our consumers the greatest advantage. Futures contracts have something called the 60-40 rule, and please, consult your tax professional. But you get to tax more than half of your gains in long-term gains versus short-term, even though you're day trading them. That's a huge advantage, right? And so we're trying to create products that have all of the full encompassed viewpoint in mind, and trying to get somebody something that at the end of the year they can push a button and get their taxable information downloaded off TradeStation, and have the advantage within those trades to be taxed at the lowest rate as possible. So there's a lot of advantages. We can talk through all of these with our customers. We consider this a labor of love in educating people and getting people really exposed to this type of stuff. Because once you see it, you start to say, aha, the idea is to free up your time, to not make your entire life about trading and about being a professional trader and waiting for breakouts. Like, if you think that there's a breakout that's going to happen at a specific point, why do you have to be at your computer when a piece of software can execute that trade for you?
Yeah, it is a
jump in. Yeah,
it is a for 50 years, Renaissance Technology, Citadel, all the biggest hedge funds, market makers, and Wall Street firms have used automation to trade. That's why I think it's 73% is the exact number of all trades across the globe happen in an automated way from a computer. Though that's been happening for 50 years with Renaissance Tech and Jim Simons. He's kind of the father of automated trading and high frequency trading. And we've worked now for 4 years to be able to give products to people that do two things: hand that technology to them, so it's not just in the hands of guys with billions of dollars. And then secondarily, give them an opportunity to generate real returns or passive income, where they don't have to buy an Airbnb, they don't have to invest in something that could get a return in 6 months. It's right there happening in front of you. And you don't have to sit at your computer. You turn it on, you check it once a week, once a day, however you want to check it, and it's going to do what it's been built to do. And so you get your time back. You're not sitting in front of your computer on crypto Twitter for 22 hours a day trying to find the next Joe Budden.
We do that for the memes, sir.
Yeah, right.
For
the next Joe Budden token to go up 37,000% and then come down 300% in 45 minutes, right? Like, if that's the life you want to live, cool. That's not the life I want to live. I want something that'll do it for me. I don't have to think about it, worry about it, set it up, let it go.
Well,
on
and
Spaces yesterday, Rand said that he finally went into the shitcoin meme casino, and that it was more fun than going to the movies with his wife or like going to an actual casino. But he was like, "It's just so much fun. That's why I'm doing it." Go ahead, Tillman, before we got to run in a minute.
I just was going to say, the real distinction here is that if you've been in the crypto space, you've been exposed to automation, you've been exposed to bots, if you will. But they're always on overseas exchanges. You have to send money to people that you don't trust. The difference here is that TradeStation is fully in support of what we're doing. We have an agreement with them to support our customers, and they know that our customers are trading automation. Their platform has been built to receive it. And so when you have an issue, you have somebody to call. You have a full support team in the United States of America. TradeStation is a great group of folks over there, and they're going to be ready to serve you in a way that you've never been served in this area. So,
well, and Scott, you know that I love the idea of taking daily, weekly, and monthly returns from our algorithms and put it in Bitcoin. Put it in spot Bitcoin, put it in a Bitcoin ETF. That turbocharges the returns even further. And it's a cheat code, so to speak. But here's the deal: it's a cheat code where you're not actively involved with your fingers on a day-to-day basis, right? It's built to do it for you. So pretty remarkable stuff.
We'll talk about more in the future because that's the announcement. I told you guys that I partnered with Mario over at IBC. We're building out the channel, a lot more content. I added Trading Alpha on Wednesdays, Market Mavericks in the afternoon on Thursdays. Well, the three of these guys with the amazing, my beard sucks, but my slight beard and the two bigger beards, joining forces every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to dig deep into literally exactly how to trade these markets, what we're looking at, much more sort of deliverable alpha than this theoretical conversation. And I'm just going to count on Andrew to bring me some tidbit of future information that nobody else knows about every single week to tell me every time there's like some enforcement action or something. Have you ever guys watched ever Game of Thrones? I know I have to apologize to Dan in the back. We're running over, but have you ever watched Game of Thrones? You know the character Varys? I'm not saying that you're neutered or anything. But he has his network of little birds. Like he's got all that. That's you.
Yeah.
That's
it's strange because the little birds came to me without me asking. Like I still don't understand how I got in this position, but I'm fine with it. I'm running with it. It's good.
All right. Well, now we got to take our little birds elsewhere. Andrew, tell you guys you should follow them both on X. If you can find Andrew, he's got the shadow ban for one of your little birds. Apparently, I reported you for something. But they're both tagged right down below. And next Tuesday, we'll be starting at 3 p.m. So you're going to see a lot more of these guys. I'm looking forward to it because Fantastic. I have held it up for months for some reason when you guys have been pushing me, and I'm the worst. So glad we're going to finally get that rolling. Tillman, I'll see you in the hallway. All right, guys.
All right.
See
ya.
All right, guys. That was awesome. We went over time. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Dan. I want to see, obviously, every Thursday, Dan comes on and shares his charts. I want to see where he stands on whether the market has bottomed here and what his signals indicators are saying. I think, Dan, that likely that big bump, that was about it. 15.5% correction and move on with our lives. What do you think?
Yeah, and definitely having, for the people that want a fundamental reason, and you can look at, the broader market, the FOMC, full steam ahead. We're seeing a bit of follow through overnight in the stock market. So definitely confidence returning. And right now I'm on the 12-hour time frame for Bitcoin. So even if we do stall out here, we could see this previous resistance right around 69,000. But even if we do stall out here, we'll just be looking for a 12-hour inverse head and shoulders. And I know, I interact with a whole bunch of traders. There's a bunch of them that are looking for an entry on a 12-hour higher or low. So there will be some dip buyers out there. It's just a question of do we get it or not? But, as you mentioned, the weekly chart and just the dip, this is picture perfect at this point. I mean, this is textbook bull flag as far as the retracement size and just no red flags whatsoever.
Yeah, you talk about that 69 level, obviously locally is important when you zoom out to the weekly. I mean, that's the previous all-time high, right? And to the penny, when you look at it on this chart, 2 weeks ago, the candle died exactly there, right? With a slight wick above. Then we opened, wicked all the way up to 74, closed below 69. And then this last candle wicked just up to 69, right? So clearly 69 is the level to beat in my mind. So I think the bottom's in, but if we're trading above 69, for me, that's when I'll be really convinced that we're good to go.
And it may take a little bit, it may take into next week or even a little bit longer. We saw the last time around, you get to the all-time high, you trade around it for a bit before getting that next leg up. And one other thing I want to point out is, we've talked many times about the dollar. Just want to keep an eye on it because, we're getting ready for a break here on the dollar. We've just been tightening up on this weekly chart for many months at this point. And if you're a crypto bull, you're hoping that this is a weekly lower high being set, and you want to see the dollar roll over there and break 102.35. And people say it's not really helpful, but on a macro perspective, this is the last time Bitcoin had weekly consolidation, and this is the last time that it had weekly consolidation. So it's definitely worth just keeping an eye on. And it's, one little piece of the puzzle. But if we want full steam ahead and full confidence for continuation, you want the dollar to be breaking bear as Bitcoin is hitting new all-time highs.
Yeah, and listen, I don't think the assets are generally correlated, but it's hard to ignore the fact when things like FOMC happen and everything pops at the exact same time, right? So there definitely is an element of money, and I think especially with ETFs now being traded kind of by TradFi, where these big events are going to affect sort of the moves of Bitcoin, certainly.
Yeah, I agree with that. Another thing I'm keeping an eye on is the miners again. Just, we had that period of relative weakness that caught a lot of people by surprise. And I was, playing bearish a lot in these miners, but I'm back to looking bullish. Just yesterday was a big day for the miners, and CLSK is one of the major ones. I haven't been trading this one a whole lot, but, I look at CLSK on the daily chart, and it's just, this is one in hindsight where you just, hit yourself face palm. Like, look at that support. I mean, we just held it, and then a significant 35% move or whatever off of it. And so it's one of the stronger miners. I watch MARA just because I've been trading it a lot more. But essentially, the next week for me is going to be, can the relative strength return? The last few days, the relative strength has been returning. Does it, stick around? And this weekly higher low in Bitcoin, is that, a new surge of confidence for these miners to start outperforming Bitcoin again a bit in the short term?
A quick question. Which MA is that? You got it right there that Mara just broke above, but on the Clean Spark chart, it looked like that was major support. Is that the 50 or the 20?
I've got EMA 12 and 26 here. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the one it's clearly bouncing off over and over again.
Yeah, that's the 26 there. Yeah, it's just very
so it's showing
strong.
more relative strength than Marathon, even when you kind of take it in that perspective, because it never lost that when Mara's kind of struggling to get back above it.
Yeah, and even just looking at CLSK divided by MARA to just, compare the two, this is an uptrend, which means CLSK has been outperforming it for quite some time. So yeah, that's, it's almost like, all right, I've been dating MARA. I'm very comfortable with it. I need to, explore the other, get comfortable with somebody else, and
polygamy,
maybe
little stock polygamy. I like it.
Yeah.
I think you got Tesla up next, man. What's been going on?
Yeah, just keeping an eye on it. Again, if we get continued confidence and this market stays in melt up mode, it's going to start looking to laggards, and certainly has been underperforming big time. And, just watching, for me, it's, zoomed out. The premise of my thesis is, all right, long-term 3-month time frame, Tesla, a 3-month higher low compared to that 101 low is the most likely scenario to keep tightening up for me. And so I'm looking for that. And, this might be starting to shape up. I have to see relative strength return, and it's trying to. It's just been relatively weak for so long because the semiconductors have been stealing the show. But I'm going to keep an eye on that. And, if Tesla can start showing us that bulls are getting interested again, it's another one where, I mentioned the Bitcoin 12-hour inverse head and shoulders. This one, if we top out here and then pull back, it could be a daily inverse head and shoulders shaping up. But essentially, I just know that I'm going to want to make an attempt on that longer-term higher low eventually. And so starting to pay attention a little bit more closely into the next week or two to possibly make that attempt.
Yeah, love it. What else you got?
Cannabis and psychedelics, just a quick check-in. So, we had Cannabis get a nice run again where Kamala Harris said, hey, DEA, hurry up and let's reschedule here. And so, again, it's the headline game. We're just waiting for the headline here. And,
it feels inevitable.
It
really
is.
Does feel inevitable now.
I mean, probability-wise, it's high that it's going to happen. It's just when. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 4 months. It's a very wide window. And so it's just, patiently waiting, because if MSOS, we just got to get back to fresh highs, and that may take a little bit. But again, just paying attention to the headline surge, and of course the psychedelic space we mentioned a few times, MNMD, after that pop and significant profit taking, is just doing its grind back up. So, bulls don't have anything to worry about. And it's the kind of sector where when you have significant market confidence, I view these as stock market altcoins. I mean, these are, the bottom of the barrel as far as highest risk, highest reward. And if people are confident throwing money to everything and it's all right, what's next? Where can I put my money next? These are some of the names that definitely benefit from that kind of market environment. And that's one that we are in at this point with this, S&P 500 melt up is unlike anything I've ever seen, just in terms of the magnitude of the straight up nature. And, it's just a question. I posted on Twitter yesterday, my mantra for this melt up is, do not fight the bulls, but be prepared for bears, just in the sense that we know how euphoria ends. And there's so many monthly charts that I could pull up, whether it's semiconductors, Eli Lilly, Wingstop, Abercrombie and Fitch, all these names, you look at their monthly chart and it's like, okay, well, I've seen this a dozen times. I know how this ends. It's going to end fast and hard eventually. I'm not going to nail the top, but I don't have to in order to take advantage of this. So ride the bull momentum, do not fight it, but just be aware that at some point, the harder we run, the harder the pullback's going to be. And so I'm just watching.
I did not see this chart. I did not see this chart. I just zoomed in. $10 to $137.
14,
basically.
yeah. Abercrombie and Fitch, man. These shop. I mean, look at Wingstop. These names, they're just, it's got 67 to 3. It's just, these things are, again, it's all bull. We're not going to fight the trend, but we're aware that when the shift happens, it's, we can easily see very significant pullbacks. And, I'm looking for this melt up to continue into the summer. And if we get another 10% plus in the S&P 500, there will come a point where it's, all right, get ready, because, same as 2021, just straight up off the CBID lows and a big pullback once the music stops. So again, don't fight
escalator up, elevator down. So the good news is that people in crypto are trained for exactly what you're describing, because we do this in a day rather than waiting 6 months or 12 months or 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's
what that's the meme coin in 10 minutes. Like, we're great at this.
Yeah, a big pullback in Abercrombie and Fitch would be, a 30% drop. And as you mentioned, everybody in crypto, 30%. Okay, I've done that.
It happened while we were talking on some meme coin that just got funded randomly. The last question before I let you go. I mean, we obviously had the Fed staying on track, saying maybe 3 rate cuts rest of the year. I mean, did anything surprise you with what Powell said? I'm not saying you listened to the entire thing, but or is it just, to me, it just feels like par for the course. Predictive markets go nuts. Everybody tries to guess, and he just says the same thing at every single meeting.
Yeah, nothing is changing. And, I honestly, I haven't listened to one word he's ever said during a conference, because I just watch the chart when he's talking, and I know he comes on at 2:30. I know to look for the volatility spike, but yeah, it's just, it's the same thing. And, whether we actually get 3 cuts or not remains to be seen. I would be a little bit surprised if they did that. But, if there's one thing that we know, it's that the Fed is,
3 cuts.
Laggard. They're pretty slow in terms of not really thinking ahead too much. And again, that's part of the thesis for me, is if we keep running up massively this year and, things get nutty and everybody's going to be leveraged long, everybody's going to be bullish. And for me, that means get cautious and get ready for leverage longs to flush out. And, we see it on Bitcoin all the time. The leverage longs, like you mentioned, just real fast and hard. But in the broader market, it's going to take a while for that to happen, a couple months. But definitely watching for that eventually.
Maybe one day after the election.
Yeah, right. That's the other thing. It's the election. So many people are like, oh, it's an election year. It's an extra safety net almost. And maybe it is, but it's just play long as long as it keeps working. Walk your stops up and then just mentally prepare yourself. I know how euphoria ends. I can look back at plenty of examples. I've seen it before. It will be hard. And it will be a massive shift. The market loves to go from FOMO to fear and fear to FOMO as fast as possible. And so just prepare for it and have a game plan. If this SPY has not confirmed a daily downtrend with a lower high and lower low since the October lows. So I can make a little note in my head. The next time SPY has a clear daily lower high and lower low, I can say this is different than anything we've seen in the last X months. And so just make little notes like that to let you know when something is shifting, something that hasn't happened in a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, totally agree. Guys, follow Chart Guys on X and, of course, his YouTube channel. And I love the little videos you've been doing a lot of. They're really, really helpful. So you can find those, obviously, in all those places. Stay bullish while, what did he say? Make hay while I forgot the term that Tillman used. But yeah.
Make hay while the sun is shining, right? Because you don't want damp hay. It gets all mildewy. I think so.
Yeah, you don't want to do wet, dark hay. bad. I know that. All right, guys. That's all we got for you today. Of course, got spaces. We're doing a meme coin spaces, Dan, at 10:15. So for me, way out of my element. There's this project called Catboy that like my cousin, my wife's cousin called me like a month ago, and his friend, and they talked to me endlessly about this amazing thing, Catboy, and we're letting them come on spaces today because it's my wife's cousin. So that should be entertaining for me.
Wow.
I hope they do. I hope they do well. I hope they look good. Catboy.
We'll see.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah, I'm holding some Catboy now just in case. So I'm convinced.
Yeah,
all right,
you can't be wrong.
Yeah, I get some Catboy. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you. We will see you on Spaces and then Market Mavericks this afternoon. Of course, tomorrow morning back here with NLW for the Friday 5. Thanks, Dan. Thank you, everybody. See you soon. Bye.